What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Underdog Podcast, episode 13 for my Week 4 Power Rankings. Quite a bit of movement this week. Compared to last week, we had a lot more big wins, big changes this week, so I'm excited to get into this. At 32, we got a new team dropping down to 2 spots. It's the New York Jets. They just look pitiful on offense, man. And I don't want to blame Zach Wilson. He is part of the problem because I feel like he has to play hero ball with the fact that just their guys aren't really showing up. I mean, they don't have a tight end. Their run game has been okay. And really the only guys making plays for him are Berrios and Elijah Moore, because I think Jameson Crowder has been inactive, if I'm not mistaken, for every game. And Corey Davis the last 2 weeks has just disappeared. He has not done anything to help that team out. They don't have a tight end. Their defense is pretty good, but their defense is not elite enough to win them games, and they're scoring 6 points a game on offense, so that's not a recipe for success. 31, we got Jacksonville moving up a spot just because I feel like the Jets are more incompetent. I talked about the Jags a lot yesterday, so I'm going to keep this short. I just think that they are mismanaging their entire roster, really. They're not putting their guys in position to win, and it just sucks, man, to see Trevor Lawrence struggle like that, because he really is a phenomenal player. At 30, moving up a spot despite the loss to Houston Texans. I thought Davis Mills wasn't terrible in his first start. He actually looked like a decent starting quarterback. They kept the game plan really simple for him, though. They were running it a lot on first and second down. But he did have a really nice drive before the end of the first half. And he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't make too many mistakes in that game. I thought he was, pretty good. Was able to kind of, just go out there and play some decent football. And he's going to have an opportunity to show that he could potentially be their starting quarterback next year for the Houston Texans. 29, staying put, Detroit Lions just caught a bad break, man, and really should have been a delay of game. The play before Justin Tucker nailed 66-yarder, but they just caught a bad break. But they did play, pretty good defensively. Hollywood Brown left some points on the board, but I thought they played pretty good defensively. Just got to get into more of a rhythm on offense and convert, on those third downs in the red zone and score touchdowns instead of field goals, and you win that game. 28, moving down a spot, the New York Giants. Really, I don't know how they lose this game at home to the Atlanta Falcons. It's really just it's just pitiful, man. I didn't think Daniel Jones played terribly, but at the end of the day, he's got to make some plays for them to win that game. And just to lose that game is just I don't even know, man. And they lose Blake Martinez to a torn ACL, who's been one of their better players on defense the last 2 years. So that's a tough blow for them as well. And then 27, moving up one spot, the team that beat them, the Atlanta Falcons, who continue to have the worst defense in football and continue to disappoint on offense. Just, I don't know how you don't get the ball in Kyle Pitts' hands, Arthur Smith. I mean, he's the best player on your offense, him and Calvin Ridley. I would probably give it to Kyle Pitts, though. I think he's just that talented. They have used Cordero Patterson well, but other than that, and Calvin Ridley, but other than that, they really haven't utilized their pieces on offense very well. 26, Philly staying put. A lot of people last night want to blame Jalen Hurts, and I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts played his best game. He definitely did not. He threw the 2 interceptions he threw. The one, was bad. It was badly underthrown, the first one. The second one, he's got to get that ball out faster, but Devontae Smith fell and Trayvon Diggs was sitting on it. I mean, it was a great play by him, but he does have to get that ball out faster. But they also have to run the football. And this is not just this season. This was last season too with Wentz. They just hate their running backs. They Miles Sanders' first carry goes for 24 yards, and you give him one other opportunity to carry the ball the rest of the game. I understand you're down. I understand you're losing. But when you're so predictable, throwing the ball every play, and the only time you're running it is when Jalen Hurts is scrambling, you're not going to win a football game. I don't understand it, man. It's it's just because Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell, they get a lot of talent. They don't utilize them. It's just pathetic, man. And then 25 falling a spot is the Chicago Bears. And I talked about them yesterday and how they just, didn't set Justin Fields up for success. Their defense did play a really good game, though. So shout out to them. They're kind of the only saving grace for Chicago right now. At 24 falling a spot, I actually thought they played really well this week as Miami. I think Brissett adds something to that offense. Like I said, I think he adds, a different dimension than Tua because he has a better arm. I think he's more athletic than Tua. Him breaking Jonathan Abrams' ankles and then him scrambling for that touchdown and put them overtime. It really, it kind of showed some fight. Miami showed some fight this week, but I just have them dropping because I thought at 23, I thought Cincinnati played a really good game this week, moving up 2 spots. And Bengals fans want me to move them up higher. I need to see more. They beat a good team in Pittsburgh, but we got to see more. We got to see them play more consistently before they can move up into the teens and really be like a playoff contender, which I think they could be. I think they got to continue to balance that offense with Joe Mixon. Feed their receivers and Boyd, Chase, and Higgins, and that defense has played really well. I got to see them step it up against some better offenses, though. They got Jacksonville this week, which is they should win handedly, but, we'll see when they get into some better competition on how they play. 22 staying put, Indianapolis Colts. I truly haven't think they've played that bad. They just haven't, executed when they need to win the football game, and they've got Miami this week, so it should be one that they could win. I just think that they need to make some timely stops on defense and need to execute better on offense. 21, dropping 3 spots, is the Washington football team. They just got shellacked on Sunday at Buffalo. I thought it was going to be a closer game. I thought they'd keep it within 10, and they just did not do that. Heineke was going back to hero ball and not really, playing smart football, just not taking care of the football. I think if this team takes care of the football, they got a chance to win, and their defense has not been the elite defense we thought it would be. I mean, they really have struggled through the first 3 weeks to stop anybody on defense. Ron Rivera will be chewing those guys out and really getting them to play better on that side of the football. I think that'll change. And then number 20, dropping 4 spots, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, man, Big Ben looks terrible. He really does. He looks like he should have retired 3 years ago. I mean, it's like Eli Manning towards the end of his career bad. And it's just sad to see. And they, that last fourth down play, it's 4th and 10, and he just dumps it to Najee Harris it has no chance. I'm like, Ben, what are you doing, bro? Take a shot to the end zone. I mean, it was bad. And some of the interceptions he threw were awful. I mean, he threw it right to Logan Wilson across his body. I don't know. I don't know if he didn't see him or what. It was bad. And then there was another one at Logan Wilson that was pretty bad too. So, I mean, Big Ben just does not look good. Their defense, though, was pretty good even without TJ Watt, sorry. 19 moving up 2 spots is Carolina. I think this week against Dallas is going to prove whether or not Carolina's legit. Their defense has been swarming. They played really good team defense, getting team pressures. It's not just one guy being their offensive their matchup on the line. It's multiple guys, and they're really hitting home on their blitzes, and they're playing really good coverage. They picked up C.J. Henderson, which is a plug and play for J.C. Horn, so I don't think they're going to miss a beat there. It's just, can this offense elevate to another level under Joe Brady, where it's not just the defense carrying them now, it's the offense really, scoring a lot more points. I think I need to see that more out of Carolina, score more points. 18 dropping 4 spots is the New England Patriots. Listen, man, they were awful. They were awful on Sunday. They could not block anybody. And everybody wants to blame Mac Jones, but really, the last interception was the only one that, in my mind, was his fault. The first one, he got hit on a blitz, and the ball just kind of fluttered to, I think it was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. The second one was off Jonnu Smith's hands. He's got to catch that football. And then the third one, he's just trying to make a play at the end of the game and threw it behind Nelson Aguilar. I mean, it was his fault. It was a bad throw, bad read. But, I mean, I thought the other two weren't really his fault. We couldn't run the football at all. Defense was pretty good. It's just, like, in the red zone, Jameis made an incredible play. And then that last drive, like, to when we were only down 8, I mean, that was pitiful. But I thought defense played relatively well, and we relatively held Kamara in check, running the football. 17, I got the Denver Broncos moving up 3 spots. I know they haven't played anybody. They got the Baltimore Ravens this week. It's Denver and Carolina this week that are really going to prove whether or not they're legit or not. And Denver's got a chance to beat Baltimore this week. I really think they do. Baltimore's got a lot of guys that are going to be coming back from COVID on defense. So I think that's going to, play to an advantage for Denver on offense, which I don't think they're a very explosive offense. They have their moments where they are explosive, where Teddy's finding Courtland Sutton or Tim Patrick down the field. But they're very efficient. They move the ball very efficiently. They got a nice running back tandem in Gordon and Javonte Williams. But they did take another hit, and KJ Hamler, who's another one of their big play threats, down for the year with a torn ACL. So they're going to have, I think Kendall Hinton's on the roster. They're going to have to have some lower guys step up and maybe look to more 2 tight end sets with Fant and Albert Okwuegbunam. And their defense has been really dominant over the first 3 games. I know they've played very bad offenses, but it's good to see your defense dominate bad opponents. They are still NFL competition. So you have to give them credit. Patrick Surtain looks incredible. Their first-round picks. And they're, making it seem like they aren't regretting passing on Justin Fields because Teddy Bridgewater's playing really well. And that pass rush, Von Miller looks really good, along with Malik Reed, Shelby Harris, Draymond Jones, and all those guys. And at 16, moving up 3 spots, is the Minnesota Vikings. I know they're 1-2, but they're probably like 2 plays away from being 3-0. That missed field goal against Arizona, and then a couple bad breaks against who'd they play week 1? Denver, I think. Denver, yeah. So Minnesota, they have a prolific offense. I mean, they didn't have Dalvin Cook this week, but Madison stepped up. Justin Jefferson really balled out against the Seahawks, and Adam Thielen looks good. Their defense is looking better. Zimmer's really getting them playing well now, and their pass rush is really suffocating with Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin. And then they're getting their defensive backs to step up, which I think was one of their weak points of this defense. So Minnesota looks good, and I think they'll continue to play better in a division that they can compete in. I'm not going to say they're going to beat Green Bay, but I think that they can compete in this division. Then at 15, moving up 2 spots, is New Orleans. Their defense looking really good. I mean, New Orleans might have the most underrated defense in the NFL right now. I mean, Cam Jordan and those guys really disrupted New England's offensive line. I mean, they got after Mac Jones this week and really put him under pressure. And their secondary is better than people think it is. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore, Malcolm Jenkins, and those boys, they really played well this week. And their offense, I don't think it's a very elite offense. They're just, again, efficient. I mean, especially this week compared to last week. I mean, they really took advantage of New England's weak points on defense. Alvin Kamara was great. Jameis was actually, looking like a solid quarterback out there. And then they used Taysom Hill to kind of come in and run down our New England's defense and really, put them on their butts on the last drive. They really took it to them there. So finish out the game strong. At 14, we got San Francisco dropping down 4 spots. I don't think it's because San Francisco played bad. It's just other teams really impressed me. And San Francisco, I think at the end of the game, kind of mismanaged the clock. They shouldn't have left any time on the clock for Aaron Rodgers. However, I think it was a nice, confidence boost for Jimmy G to know that he kind of went down the field and did his thing and put San Francisco in a position to at least win that game. I think the offense did their job. They were off to a slow start, but they picked it up in the second half and, kind of started picking apart Green Bay's defense and looked really good. They finally got Brandon Ayuk involved, so it looks like he's out of the doghouse. And they, were able to, use Trey Sermon very well. He had a very nice game. They were actually able to get George Kittle involved. He's kind of been quiet the first 2 weeks, and he had a monster game. So looking up for San Francisco, their defense was pretty good too. I just think that, they need to start faster on offense, I think is their problem. Then at 13, staying put is Vegas. They did squeak out a win in this one. I thought that their offense still played pretty good and their defense kind of regressed back to the mean. But I do think Gus Bradley has done a very good job with his defense and kind of putting guys where they're going to succeed. It's just, can they not be like a bottom 7 defense is going to be the key for Vegas on whether or not they're going to win this division or not. And then at 12, we have the Tennessee Titans dropping down a spot. Nothing, that, they did wrong because they obviously won. I just think that, again, other teams impress me. Derrick Henry's looking good. Tannehill actually looked really good in this game. He really was slinging it. And their defense played really well. Harold Landry III had one hell of a game, man. He was game-wrecking the Colts. And they came up with some timely stops on defense and were able to execute on offense. A.J. Brown, though, is listed week to week, so that's tough. Going to put more pressure on Julio and, what's that kid's name? Westbrook Ikini. I don't know if I'm saying that right or not. And then they're going to need more production out of their tight ends like Ferkser and Michael Pruitt. And then at 11, I got Seattle falling 3 spots. They just really, the last 6 quarters, they have not looked great. But I still think they're a better team than Tennessee. Even though Tennessee beat them, I just think they just haven't played like themselves. That defense is kind of looking like their defense like first half of last year, just looking absolute trash. I think they need to regroup. Ken Norton Jr. needs to regroup that unit. And really, I think they just need to change up some things like, maybe, I don't know, blitz more or, look to some different coverages. Because I think, they were coming up with some creative blitzes, getting Bobby Wagner, free hits. I think they need to do more stunts, get, Alton Robinson and get Kerry Hyder, on the edge, more involved, and really, kind of put more pressure on the quarterback. I think they're just kind of trying to play coverage, and they don't really have the guys to do it this year. Then that offense, I just think they haven't executed when they needed to. They didn't execute last week in the second half, and they didn't execute this week when they needed to. And Tyler Lockett was shut down this week, and so was DK Metcalf. So, you got to get those guys going, and when they're not going, you got to get a spark from a Chris Carson, a Freddie Swain, a Will Dissly, a Gerald Everett. Somebody else has got to step up when those guys aren't, producing like they should. And then at number 10, the highest climber this week, the Los Angeles Chargers. And, I have been critical of this team because they just shoot themselves in the foot, man, and they don't win games. But this week, they took it to Kansas City, and they punched them in the mouth. They got turnovers when they needed to. The first one on the INT of Mahomes, it was a no-look pass. It was behind the receiver, but the receiver's got to catch that pass, man. He really does. And then Asante Samuel Jr. made a great athletic play to pick it off. But, why the fuck wouldn't they get up and run? And even on the second pick, when they picked him off, I'm like, dude, why aren't you getting up and running and, going to try and score? I was like, come on, man. But Justin Herbert was really good in this game, and he that was probably his best game as a pro. I mean, and then for Brandon Staley, after a false start on 4th and 4, to say on 4th and 9 with a minute left to say, hey, I don't trust us in this situation to hold Mahomes and not get the ball back. And he's a defensive guy, and he's got, a pretty good defense. To go for it and then get the PI, that takes some balls. And this is what we need in the NFL, is more guys saying, hey, especially against teams like the Chiefs. We got to go for it. Baltimore did it last week on 4th and 1 from their own territory. Said, hey, let's put it in the hands of Lamar Jackson, QB power. And they got the first down. They won the game. Brandon Staley's like, hey, I don't care. It's 4th and 9. We're going for this, and we're getting it. And they did. I mean, it took a penalty, but they still got it. And then they ended up scoring a touchdown, winning the game. So shout out to LA for really, for going for it in that situation and trusting their guy and Justin Herbert to make the play. At number 9, we got the Dallas Cowboys, who thrashed the Philadelphia Eagles. Honestly, I kind of expected them to thrash them. They looked really good with that Zeke Pollard dynamic. Their defense looked pretty good, albeit against Philly, but they did look really good. And Trayvon Diggs looks legit, man. He really looks legit. He's been probably, I don't think he's the best corner in the league. I want to stress that, but he has played the best at that position in this league this season. Other than the only other guy I can think of is maybe Byron Murphy. It's probably one of those two has played really well, and he's all over the field, man. I mean, he jumped that out route and took it to the house. I mean, that was great. And Dak played pretty well. I mean, made the plays that they needed to win. I thought, again, another good call, 4th down. I think they were up 10 at that point, or 7 or something. And they were like, it's like 4th and 3, and they went for it in the red zone. I was like, Mike McCarthy, you made a good call. And Kellen Moore's got that offense running really efficiently, and Dallas looks good. They got a legit opponent in Carolina. I'm looking forward to that game, man. It's going to be one of the games of the week. And then number 8, moving up a spot, Baltimore. I thought Lamar actually played really, really well in this game. It's just Marquise Brown leaving points on the board. Their defense was really good, making stops when they needed to in the red zone, holding the Lions to field goals, which ultimately, was the difference maker, and they ended up winning the game. They did have that delay a game, but, when they don't call it, you got to execute. And Justin Tucker, making a Hall of Fame case right there with that 66-yarder. I think he should be in the Hall of Fame, most accurate kicker of all time. I mean, dude is a legend, man. That was a great moment on Sunday. This is why we love football, man. It's for those moments on Sunday, those record breakers like him and Jamal Agnew returning the kick. I mean, it's just great. Number 7, staying put, is the Arizona Cardinals. They've played really, really well, man, and it's a legit matchup this week in probably the game of the week against the Rams. Kyler Murray's turnovers are a problem. I think he's a little careless sometimes, and that was kind of my criticism of Kyler, is he's a little careless, and then in big games, he hasn't really shown up. This is a big game. Kyler Murray needs to show up for them to win this game. And I think, they have a nice dynamic where Cliff Kingsbury knows, kind of what to call, and I think kind of that's been a criticism of him, is he's, not run the ball when he's supposed to and not pass the ball when he's supposed to. And I think this year he's utilizing that nice 1-2 punch in Chase Edmonds and James Conner well, and getting a nice run balance along with that explosive passing game he has with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and the crew. And, adding Kyler into the run game as well has really been a big difference for this team. At number 6, staying put, is the Buffalo Bills. I almost put them over Cleveland. I really did, because they had a dominant win over Washington. But, I just felt like, Cleveland, they're like 5A, 5B. We'll put it that way. But Josh Allen really played really well this week. Singletary and Zach Moss are a nice dynamic duo. And their offensive line held up against a good pass rush. I don't think Josh Allen got sacked this week. And, they just played really well. And their defense really suffocated Heineke and forced him to make mistakes, and that was probably one of the biggest difference makers this week, was their ability to have Heineke, make mistakes, and they didn't do that. They it was the opposite in week 1, where Pittsburgh forced them to make mistakes, and then Pittsburgh capitalized off that, which is why they lost. But then, the last 2 weeks has been the opposite, where the Bills have forced Miami and Washington to make mistakes. So that's been kind of the difference the last 2 weeks. And then at number 5, I've got Cleveland. Amazing defensive performance. Obviously, I gave my thoughts about Matt Nagy's shitty game plan, but they took advantage of it for sure. Myles Garrett, 4.5 sacks. Jadeveon Clowney, great game. 1 net passing yard for the Bears. That is just insane. Cleveland's got a legit defense, man, and their offense, did what they needed to do this week. They got Odell involved. They got him back to where he feels comfortable with himself on the field. And, they looked really good this week. Offensively, they were efficient. They got Chubb and Kareem Hunt going. Kareem Hunt had a really good game this week. So it's nice to see that Cleveland, still, Kevin Stefanski's got that understanding of how they need to win football games. Number 4, stand put, Green Bay Packers. Do not ever give Aaron Rodgers time on the clock at the end of the fourth quarter when you're up, or he will kick your ass. And the fact that he just didn't guard Devontae Adams on the last 2 plays in San Francisco, what are you doing, man? Great job by Rodgers to be able to find Devontae Adams, set up for a field goal, Mason Crosby's money, in those late game situations. And I thought, they started off the game really hot. I think they were up 17-0, and then they cooled off. And that's a problem because you can't cool off against some of these other teams or they will come back to beat you. Or they will keep pace with you and then outscore you. So I think that's my one criticism of the Packers this week. But I think their defense was really solid in the first half, kind of cooled off in the second half, but they were really solid. Preston Smith looked really nice. Eric Stokes, shout out to him. He was really good, had tight coverage, should start over Kevin King. Number 3, dropping a spot, Kansas City Chiefs. Why do I still have them at 3? It's the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, they just got to stop turning the football over, and their defense has to make a stop. I thought Mahomes this week wasn't that great, but, I think Chargers were just the better team, and, if there's time on that clock, Mahomes is going to have a chance, and he got it down there, and they nearly, converted a Hail Mary. So, again, I don't think it's panic button on the Chiefs yet. I mean, they got Philadelphia this week. They should bounce back. I think they're going to be okay. They're going to be all right. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to be fine. And then we got Tampa Bay who's dropping a spot. Listen, Tom Brady carried that team on Sunday. Their defense, their pass rush was non-existent throughout most of the game. Their linebackers were not flying the football in the run game. Sony Michel had a really good game. And their secondary just got toasted, man. They are really missing Sean Murphy-Bunting. And if I'm them, I go sign Richard Sherman. Immediately. And Jamel Dean got hurt, too. I mean, they're suffering there in the secondary. It's really bad. And then offensively, didn't run the football at all. Tom Brady, I think, was their leading rusher. Never a good sign when Tom Brady's your leading rusher. You're not going to win very many games like that. But Tom Brady was efficient, moving the ball down the field. It wasn't his best game, but he threw for over 400 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, he did have a good game, but they got to be better, man. They got to be better on defense for sure. And then the new number 1 team, the Los Angeles Rams. They got the best defense in football, period. Aaron Donald's the best player in football, period. Jalen Ramsey's the best corner in football, period. And they changed games. You saw it on Sunday, man. They changed games, and that's the reason they won. Those two right there, and then on offense, they were able to convert when they needed to. And Cooper Kupp continues to just dominate. Matt Stafford looks like an MVP. I don't know what I was doing there, but he truly looks like the MVP through the first 3 weeks. Other than maybe him or Derek Carr is probably my pick. Sony Michel got his chances to shine with Darrell Henderson out. Looked really good, and then they made the plays they needed to win that game, man. And the LA Rams are legit. They are legit. I will say that. And they got another big game this week against Arizona to keep proving that they're the number 1 team in football. So that's all I got for you. Week 4 power rankings. Gonna try and do a recap tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. But a lot of movement this week and a lot of interesting storylines. We got Brady's return to New England. I'm gonna be fucking hyped for that game. We'll see how it goes. But I'm gonna be hyped for that game. It's gonna be weird seeing Tom Brady, coming to play at Gillette and not in a Patriots uniform. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and peace.